Thank you for tuning in to Heroes and Patriots, a program about national security, intelligence, and foreign policy. Today is Thursday, September 1st, 2022, and we are coming to you live from the studios of KMUD Community Radio in Northern California. I'm Mary Massey, and with me is co-host John SAKOWICZ. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Mary, and good morning to our audience listening to the broadcast and to the web stream throughout the country and the world.
And we wanted to take a minute for a brief housekeeping note. KMUD is gearing up for its fall fund drive. And John, you have a book there, an author from our previous guest in August, Robin Marty.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to announce this offer. Robin Marty was the guest on our last show, and she is one of the real leaders in the fight for reproductive rights. She is a director of a clinic in Alabama, one of the most oppressive states for reproductive rights. She was on our show. And she's written the new handbook for a post-Roe America, the complete guide to abortion legality, access, and practical support. Her name is Robin Marty. We were very pleased to have her on the show. And I bought half a case of books for our station, KMUD. And the first 8 people to sign to either renew their membership or to become a membership, if you mention our show, Heroes and Patriots, we'll give you the book as a premium. So again, that's my gift to the station. I am so happy to do this for a lot of reasons. Number one, because I have 5 daughters, and I'm a feminist father, and I support reproductive rights. Moreover, I really support KMUD Radio. We are a true community of people. I like to think of us as a loving family, progressive, informed, kind-hearted people. Our show gets a lot of support from the station. Dorothy is engineering our show, for instance. She's got a lot of other duties at the station, including being our new membership coordinator. But that's the kind of support that we get, and we don't even have to ask for it. So please support KMUD Radio by becoming a member or renewing your membership. Mention our show and get the new handbook for a post-Roe America, the complete guide to abortion legality, access, and practical support by Robin Marty, who was a guest in our last show.
Thank you, John. And again, for those of you who are not members and would like to take advantage of this premium offer, the fund drive is beginning around the 13th of September, I believe, and it lasts about a week. And you'll have the opportunity for some fun things and meet some of the programmers on air. So do take a moment and take advantage of this opportunity. Today, during the broadcast, we invite you listeners to call in with questions for our guest today. That number, 707-923-9311. I think that's right. Yeah. We ask that you be brief with your questions so that as many folks listening can call in. And today's program will be archived right here at KMUD, our program website, which is heroespatriots.org, and on our Facebook page, Heroes and Patriots. So let's get started. We have one guest today, and she is new to the program. Her name is Mary Crowley. She is the co-founder of Mission Resolve Foundation and also the founder and executive director of Ocean Voyages Institute. That was established in 1979 as a public charity based in Sausalito. Their goal is to preserve the maritime arts and sciences, the ocean environment, and island cultures. And that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about, John. We're going to be talking about all the plastic that has been just looming in the Pacific Ocean and elsewhere. We really have done our share on building this giant floating flotilla, if you will, of plastic.
Yeah, think of the think of the ocean, the plastic gyre, as kind of the blue heart of the ocean, and that the arteries of that heart is being clogged by just millions of tons of plastic.
Yeah.
It's almost incomprehensible, and I can't wait to have Mary Crowley on the show. Little disclosure here: years ago, my sons Ryan and Austin sailed with Mary Crowley on one of her missions with Project Kaisei to the plastic vortex. Both received congressional nominations to the Maritime Academy. Both graduated as Coast Guard licensed deck officers. And as a footnote, Austin also graduated from the very prestigious U.S. Navy's SSOP program, a Strategic Sea Lift Officers Program. Both boys were rugby players, All-American rugby players, Division III. Ryan is now a licensed captain. This year he passed his license exam for commercial maritime captain up to 18,000 tons. And Austin is a second mate. Both boys are enjoying fantastic careers, and they got their start at Project Kaisei, Ocean Voyages Institute, under the tutelage and mentorship of Mary Crowley.
And let's bring Mary in. Mary, I know it's 6 a.m. in Hawaii. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be with you.
Oh, we're so thrilled to have you on. You know, California is a little bit ahead of its time in that they did away with or banned one-time usage plastic bags, I think in 2016 or 17, although I still see them floating around. It makes me furious. But are there other organizations that are helping you or assisting you with this effort? It's such a huge problem.
It is a huge problem, and that's one of the things we try to do besides actually doing the cleanup. It's so important to educate people that we can all be part of the solution. We can, refuse throwaway plastics. We can have what we do encounter, because it's almost impossible not to encounter plastic in our lives.
Right.
But we can be very careful about getting it recycled, repurposed, and the throwaway things are so insidious because there's so many of them, and I think sometimes people feel that they put things correctly in a bin someplace, but sadly a lot of things don't get recycled,
right.
Even when people think they are. And one of the issues is that plastics are such a reasonably priced product. And, that's another part of the solution. In Europe, the plastics industry has had more taxes or fees as part of manufacturing plastics so that there are funds available to do better recycling.
Now, you're an environmentalist, are you not, Mary? I mean, that is your background?
Yes. I'm a sailor, and I'm very devoted to the world's oceans and the health of the ocean. I mean, there's startling statistics. The United Nations has said that by 2040 that there'll be more plastic in the ocean than ocean life. And that is something we don't want to see happen, because the health of our ocean is vital to our own health and the health of the planet. So, as my good friend Sylvia Earle says, right now, the next 10 years are the most important for our ocean, and we can all be a big part of restoring ocean habitat by, supporting Ocean Voyages Institute. The more days we're able to be at sea, the more plastics we pick up. And everybody can be involved in beach cleanups, river cleanups, neighborhood cleanups. Somehow cleaning up really gives people the connection of how out of place plastics are in nature, where
right.
they end up killing, in the ocean, they're killing whales and dolphins and turtles and fish, and they also are killing bird life, and plastics just don't belong in nature with all the creatures that are trying to survive and live healthy lives.
Mary, first of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your efforts as a pioneer in cleaning up the plastic vortex. And I want to thank you for being such an important influence on the lives of my sons. Their career started with you, and I just want to thank you for that. And it's more than just the seafaring. Seafaring skills. You introduced them to and you gave them a love of the seafaring life and a life of the oceans. And I want to thank you for that. That's no small thing. I want to thank you.
Well, I want to say your sons are both really great people, and it was an honor to have them on our ship and involved in our program, and I've been very pleased to see what wonderful careers they're having within the maritime industry. And so you have every right to be very proud of them, and I was happy to play a part in introducing them to it. So they are great, wonderful people.
Thanks, Mary. You mentioned Sylvia Earle. You have such an impressive group of advisors and consultants, etc. Let's talk about some of those people. Let's start with Sylvia Earle, explorer in residence at the National Geographic. She was their chief scientist. She was also the chief scientist at the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. Just so heavily credentials. But she's but one advisor. Talk about some of your advisors and some of your partners, please.
Oh, we're honored to have many, many wonderful people involved. Another one of our advisors is a gentleman by the name of Tony Motion, who just recently, a few years ago, retired as a captain from Matson Line, and captaining ships going back and forth across the gyre. He definitely has a good understanding of the problems and issues, and we just unloaded a cleanup in Sausalito at the Bay Model, the Army Corps of Engineers Bay Model, and Tony Motion was one of the key people involved in helping to organize and oversee that. There is another fellow by the name of Kip Carlson, who was recently retired San Francisco Bay pilot, bringing the big ships in and out. And it's been wonderful to have the support we've received from the maritime industry and people within it that really understand we can't keep sitting back and not really solving and attacking this issue of plastic in our ocean.
I was looking at the names, some of the other names of your advisory council. You got Jim DeFore from the Scripps Institute. That's impressive. Russell Long of the Blue Water Network. You have Mark Massara, director of the Sierra Club's California Coastal Campaign. Impact Ventures. Tim Eichenberg of the San Francisco Bay Conservation Development Commission, and then that's just the advisory council. Then you have the scientific team, which is equally impressive. I was wondering if the Jacques Cousteau Society is involved with you.
Some people within the society. And certainly Jean-Michel Cousteau, I remember he flew up to meet us back in 2009 when our first expedition to the GYRE was coming in. And he has been very supportive of our work and our mission. Another wonderful advisor is a lady by the name of Charlotte Vick, who worked with Google on doing Google Ocean. And Charlotte has been very involved in activities within the United Nations, particularly their Open Seas Alliance.
Right.
And, we feel honored to have the quality of people involved and to have the recognition that this is a major issue for our oceans and our world, and we can really solve it. I mean, what we are doing is a definite solution and one that can be scaled up and expanded. And that's what we're in the process of doing. We are going to be doing a campaign to build 2 sailing cargo ships, because one thing that we know is using wind power to pick up plastics makes a lot of sense. Our carbon footprint is quite low because of using sailing as much as we can. And it makes a tremendous difference in the costs involved of doing ocean cleanup. And so, we're very pleased that we've been each year improving what we're able to do, and with plans for quite some expansion. And I view that the ships that we will build and use will be really designed to do the best possible job of efficiently picking up things. And so we can carefully select and choose other organizations around the world and gift them the designs of our ships so that they can build ships and we can have a network operating, every place from the North Pacific subtropical convergence zone, where we have been basing most of our operations, to the South Pacific convergence zone, to the Indian Ocean, to the Mediterranean, because though the North Pacific gyre is considered one of the most polluted areas, there are polluted areas throughout the world, and so we like to address them. We did do work the winter before, this last winter, in Costa Rica and Panama, and there's a whole area that includes the Galapagos Islands and Colombia and Panama and Costa Rica that is filled with marine sanctuaries and is a very important production area of ocean life. And but it also gets filled with plastic. So it's a big job, but it feels so amazing to bring our garbage out of our precious ocean and really be changing the habitat.
Mary, I want to talk about your fundraising in a second, and I have a little story to tell you about our mutual friend Doug Woodring at a Johns Hopkins major donor dinner that I attended, and where he was the guest speaker. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the technology. Two areas of the technology. One is the cleanup itself, and the other is what happens to the plastic after you collect it and bring it back on shore. So with the technology, I like the fact that you use sailing ships like the Kaisei and don't have to burn diesel to trawl for the plastic. But I've also heard about something called, I think it's called biological mimicry, where they build these artificial islands and they use the wave motion to collect the plastic, particularly the small confetti-sized plastic, in ripples on the island. Is that something that you do? So talk a little bit about the technology of the cleanup and then the technology of what happens to the plastic after you collect.
Okay, with pleasure. One thing that we developed starting in 2018 is GPS satellite trackers. And these are, about the size of a soccer ball or a bowling ball, containing specially designed equipment that sends off signals. And so we give these trackers to vessels going across the GYRE area, and when they spot a good-sized ghost net, the derelict fishing gear one finds, they will tag the tracker. The tracker has a cord and a carabiner, and they turn that on, and we turn that on. And then it continues to ping for up to a year and a half to 2 years. So we generally pick them up within 6 months to a year. And this gives us a wonderful resource because the ocean has a way of sorting things. On the trips your sons were on, we would come to an area and there'd be 4,000 big white laundry detergent bottles, or there'd be a whole area that would be soft drink and beer crates, or there'd be, and it would be amazing because you kind of think, well, was this all dumped together? And the answer is no. But the ocean sorts similarly sized and shaped things to be in that same area. And so seeing that, and over the years trying to find the best ways to quickly find the nets, we thought that the nets would sort themselves too. And so when we have a net tagged, within a 10 to 15 mile radius, we usually find quite a few other nets. And so we're able to use drones to fly patterns over that area, as well as sailors up in the rig of the boat with specially designed, stabilized binoculars to do good spotting, so we're able to bring in quite a few nets. And, we feel that we also have a wonderful relationship with some of the best ocean modelers in the world at the University of Hawaii, Dr. Nikolai Maximenko and Dr. Jan Hofner. And so, we share our data with them so they have real-time knowledge of how these big nets move through the ocean from following our satellite.
And what happens to the plastic again? I heard that one theory is pyrolysis, using it's what happens to a lot of garbage here on shore, where they burn plastics and other garbage in the absence of oxygen, under very high pressure and very high temperature, to literally reverse engineer the plastic into a low-grade diesel oil and carbon black. Is that something that that you would consider feasible?
Yes. We have been exploring different technologies, trying to figure out the best. It's our commitment. We don't want to see any of the plastics we pick up go into landfill. We don't want to see any of them go back into the ocean. And so, John, you're right. Pyrolysis, which turns the plastic back into different grades of fuel, or it can turn it back into quite pure plastic, is one technology that we have explored and can be a very good thing to do with plastics, and that technology keeps improving, and there's quite a few wonderful people around the world doing it, and there are people right in Northern California doing it as well. And we also, this year, as well as in 2020, we've been working with a company down in Los Angeles area that converts plastics into tables, into vases, into, they're just in the process of designing a special series of ocean plastics that are all plastics that Ocean Voyages Institute has picked up. And they've been finding that people really love the idea of buying their pieces because they end up being quite beautiful because they have such a range of colors. There's, little specks of the colors you see. And they do a very good job. And in fact, I'm talking with them about different new products that they could be designing and bringing them on.
Is there any such thing as Mary? Is there any such thing as plastic eating bacteria, or am I living in a science fiction world?
There are people, scientists in different parts of the world that are experimenting with plastic-eating bacteria, and some of that work seems promising. I'm always concerned about us putting things into nature that I think one needs to carefully research things, being sure we're not putting things even more out of balance.
Right.
But I was going to say something that we're actively exploring now is putting plastic into roads and freeways because it helps the roads last longer and it helps them absorb more heat. And so that can be quite a worthwhile thing.
It's 31 minutes past the hour, and you are listening to Heroes and Patriots on KMUD.org. Our guest today is Mary Crowley, and we are talking about the hoard of plastic that has accumulated throughout the years and her mission to clean that up. And I want to get specifically into Project Kaisai. And you take young lives and shape them into becoming sailors, if you will. Do they need any background in sailing to be a part of this? And how do you get your candidates for this project?
What we need to be sure is, very sure as one can be, is that they will like the environment out there. So we like to take people who have had some background being on boats or living on boats or doing adventures on boats because, many people love the ocean and being out on it. And others, may not be as comfortable. And so, we don't demand that people have specific number of months at sea or have taken certain courses, etc. But we do like them to have enough experience and interest and passion for doing this that we know that they're going to be comfortable during the extended voyages.
And how long is a voyage, typically?
Voyages are really anywhere from our shortest ones have been about 25 days, and our longest has been 50 days. So anywhere from 25 to 50 days.
Right. And I suspect that there's a lot of funding needed for not only running this project, but also sustaining some of your other projects. How are you funded, and how can people become involved if they're interested? And I should say the number here is 707-923-3911 with questions for Mary. But could you speak to the funding aspect?
Yes. I mean, a lot of our funding has come from people that are passionate about oceans, people that are sailors or kayakers or swimmers, scuba divers, and a lot has come from family foundations that have a real concern and understanding of how important oceans are to the health of the planet and our own health. And some has come from businesses. So, a lot of individual people and foundations, both small and large, have been the backbone of what we have been doing out there. And so, we always encourage people to get involved. And, whether they're involved, we enjoy working with teachers who want to engage their classrooms in learning more about the ocean and the ocean plastics issue. And so involvement can be in educating people. Involvement can be in participating in cleanup. Involvement can be in donating money to help us have more days at sea. I mean, Ocean Voyages Institute, as I mentioned earlier, really also is very involved with the maritime industry. And a lot of people working on and close to the ocean really understand the importance of this. And so it's wonderful of having their involvement. Massey Navigation has been very helpful to us with logistics and helping us get the plastics to the right recycling centers and areas.
Mary Crowley, we have a call for you. Caller, if you're listening, go ahead with your question for Ms. Crowley.
Oh, thank you so much. And Ms. Crowley, thank you for your longtime dedication and inspiring work on such a crucial issue, getting even more serious. My question follows up on Mary's last point about outreach and engagement of people, but also engagement of governments. I mean, a long time ago, there was the Law of the Seas Treaty that the UN signed. It's a little controversial, but still important. Just wondering, are you finding, you've talked about the International Network of Scientists, are you finding that there's an international network of NGOs and activists around the world from other countries besides the U.S. and more activist-oriented ones that are engaged with what you're doing and receptive to what you're doing? And then just another point about outreach, I'm wondering if you're working with cruise lines at all to make them partners in this effort.
Thank you, caller.
Okay, those are all great comments and questions. But, there are certainly organizations and people throughout the world that are involved in different ways of helping to clean up the ocean. And it's one thing that gives me hope that people, this is something, a lot of people are very concerned about the climate change issue. And, people have ideas of things they can do by cutting their carbon footprint, etc. But there's something about cleaning up the ocean that's a very direct, relatively simple in some ways action that people can be part of and therefore making quite a tremendous difference. And your comment about cruise lines is important. And I'd say the whole, ships can be run in such ways that they create hardly any garbage, that anything they put into the ocean is sort of organic things that are going to feed fish, and, there are other waste they bring ashore to be processed and handled and recycled. And so that's an important thing, and it varies a lot throughout the world, the way the shipping industry handles their debris. So, everyone from, all of us as individuals that may be listening to this show, and people that are running businesses, everybody can do small changes to help our whole issue of not using the ocean as a garbage pail.
Ms. Crowley, we have another caller to ask a question. Caller, if you're listening, please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, this is Ryan Morris, John's son. I just wanted to call and say hi to everyone and thank Mary Crowley for everything she's done for me, and love hearing that everything's continuing to pushing the effort forward. And I lost service out here because I'm at sea right now, so I didn't get to hear the second half. But as far as the question, I suppose it would be, I know there's like carbon credits that companies get for reducing carbon in the atmosphere. Is there anything along those lines as far as plastic, reducing the plastic in the ocean or reducing plastic waste for Project Kaisei or anything like that?
Thank you, Ryan.
Yes.
Good to hear your voice.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you for calling, Ryan. And I'm out here in Hawaii. We just unloaded more debris, and Adrian Stone sailed by, so I know he'd say hello. But yes, that's a very good question. There are quite a few people working in the area of trying to establish plastic credits as ways of helping to fund our work. And I think that within the next year or so, that should actualize, and I think it will be a big help. And there is a group called the Plastic Bank that in different parts of the world pays people to pick up plastics. And I believe that that's quite a worthwhile activity as well.
Right.
So,
it's 43 minutes past the hour. If you've just joined us, we are speaking with Mary Crowley, who is a founder and executive director for one program, Project Kaisei, which picks up and disposes, plastic in the ocean. John, you had a question?
Yeah. By the way, Mary, I wanted to tell you that Ryan is literally driving the ship he called you from. When I spoke to him earlier today and told him about the program, he said, I'm at sea right now. And then, like on Facebook, TikTok, whatever it was, he showed me, a picture from inside where his office was. And I was just so amazed that, my son is doing this now, and he got his start with you. He's a civilian employee of the Navy, I think. He doesn't talk about his work much. I suspect it's classified. But he got to start with you. And I think that's an important part of what you do, Mary. You raise and you educate and you mentor a new generation of mariners. I think that's a key.
And environmentalists.
And a lot of them are women. You have yourself a role model, Sylvia Earle, a role model, many women role models. You've broken down all kinds of racial and ethnic barriers and having a truly international crew. And I think it should be lauded for all of that. I don't think that should go unmentioned.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. It's quite an honor to get to really make a difference to our oceans. And I think that's the most important message to get across to everyone is, this plastics in our ocean has been just growing as a problem. And it is something we can really change and have to change now. So people, I think it's very worthwhile on both our website, which is oceanvoyagesinstitute.org, and on YouTube and many other things you can find us and watch some of the film clips of actually the mid-ocean work of removing the plastic. And you get to really feel how important it is because it is creating space for a healthy habitat for ocean life.
It's 46 minutes past the hour. Ms. Crowley, we have another caller. Caller, if you're listening, go ahead with your question.
Look, and I just need to know, would you please spell the name of the project? I can't get it, and your contact info before you go away.
Good question.
Yes, it's Project Kaisei, Kaisei, and Kaisei in Japanese means ocean planet. And, Project Kaisei was the really plastic cleanup initiative within Ocean Voyages Institute, which, as I say, now our main website and the posting of our current activities and things is on oceanvoyagesinstitute.org. And, it really is worthwhile. We've had different people, come to us and we've helped them, or some people are able to themselves, take our things off of our website and do presentations showing people what we're doing out on the ocean, because I think it really helps understand the importance of the work and doing it now. And so, here in Hawaii, where we've done quite a lot of trips, people really applaud our work because they see the plastics washing up on reefs and beaches, and, they realize that cleaning up at sea is the most effective way of removing them from the ocean environment.
Mary Crowley, we have another caller. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, ma'am. My name's Kevin. I live in Fort Bragg. I'm an old surfer. I'm 66 years old, but I've been surfing for 60 years. I'm a California Heinz 57 person, meaning I've lived on the coast. If I go 20 miles inland, I go through withdrawals. I just want to thank you for your work. A lot of us surfers, we're the ones that pick up the cigarette butts and that are on the trails and stuff like that, cigarette butts and pieces of plastic. And I think that, I don't know, but it seems that a lot of the plastic comes from the rivers that flow out to the ocean. For one example, I've heard that people in the Amazon, the tourists that go they use the Amazon, after they drink their cups of stuff, they just throw their plastic cups in the ocean. And I assume that's the same thing around a lot of communities in the world that where this happens. And I think it may be some education through whatever sources. But I just wanted to call you and say thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that, and you're very correct. I mean, a lot of people, in countries like Indonesia and, throughout much of tropical Asia, people would use, banana leaves or other leaves as plates, and then they'd throw them into the river. But, and that's fine to do with banana leaves. But if you do the same thing with plastic plates or cups or utensils, you're putting things that are going to pollute and kill animal life and do all the things we who understand the importance of our ocean don't want to see happen. So thank you so much for calling, and thank you. I know surfers most are really good at picking up plastics off the beaches. So thank you for the way you appreciate the ocean and help to clean it as well.
Mary, I promised that I was going to tell you a little fundraising story, and here it is. I, as you may know, I got my start on Wall Street, and I helped launch the country's first managed futures fund at Dean Witter with my boss at that time, Kent Tropin. It's now a multi-billion-dollar-a-year industry. It was the preceded the hedge fund industry. It became a really big deal. Unfortunately, I left Wall Street before I was able to cash in, but I was there, and I gave some money to my alma mater, Johns Hopkins, and they regarded it as a major gift. So they started inviting me to major donor dinners, and I think this was about 2010, 2011, and I got invited to one of these dinners, and I was seated at the table with all these multi-billionaires. Now, mind you, my net worth compared to theirs wouldn't even qualify me to be their waiter, wouldn't even qualify me to be their busboy. I don't know what I was doing. I was sitting next to Ken Fisher of Fisher Investments. I think at the table was Steve Schwartzman with BlackRock and Leon Cooperman, Stanley Druckenmiller, Bill Gross from PIMCO. These are multi-billionaires. And then there was me. And I was afraid to, butter my bread. I was so self-conscious, like, what am I doing here? But the deal was, what I was doing there is the keynote speaker was none other than Doug Woodring, who like yourself, is one of the UN climate heroes and a Google Earth hero. I think he co-founded Project Kaise with you, and Doug is a Johns Hopkins alumni. He graduated from the School of Advanced International Studies, SAIS, and I guess I got invited because they knew that I was also an alumni and had an interest in ocean health and ocean cleanup, and they invited me to the dinner, and I was sitting next to all these billionaires. So my question is, how do we connect you to these heavy hitters? You're doing such an important job, and it's such a massive problem. The Pacific Gyre itself, I think, is something like 500 square miles. And I don't know how many millions of tons of plastic are in that gyre, but it's an enormous, incomprehensibly enormous problem. How do we connect you with the major donors that can really take Ocean Voyages Institute and Project Kaise to the next level?
That is a great question, and one that, I think hopefully through shows like this, through film clips, through people sharing information, the word does get around to more major funders as well, and everybody's funding is important to us. But as you wisely know, people that are in a position to contribute major amounts of money help us scale up more quickly, which is what the ocean environment needs. Now that we've sort of well proven out the technologies and have a good ability to find the ocean trash, funding is what we need to continue scaling up our efforts every year.
We have about 3 or 4 minutes left, Ms. Crowley, and we have another call. Caller, go ahead with your question.
Hi, Mary. Krista Miller here with Zero Waste Humboldt, and part of what we do is advocate for point source prevention of plastics, and I just wondered if you had a recommendation of some other organizations that we should reach out to. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll take my answer off the air.
Okay.
Oh, Chris, I think nowadays what has happened in recent years is there's more and more people understanding the importance of dealing with plastic waste. And so there are many worthwhile organizations. I think perhaps I could send you some list of them, but I think zero waste is the way our world needs to go. As we have more people, we have to be more responsible with everyone's waste and with creating ways of recycling, repurposing, upcycling, because otherwise, we become buried in our own waste, and that's not healthy. And so I applaud the work that you are doing, and would be happy to follow up. And as I say, there's so many, I don't want to forget anybody, but I'd be happy to provide you with the resources.
In the last minute or so, Mary, we have a message relayed by Dorothy. The caller's connection was bad. Dorothy, what's that question?
So this is a message from Lolo Trash, the host of Talking Trash on the third Tuesday, the environmental show, 7 to 8 p.m. She called in, but there was a bad connection, but she invites listeners to tune in and hear about how damaging paralysis is to people and environment, and how recycling is a lie. There is presently no good solution to plastic pollution except to stop producing it. Here we go.
Very good. Thank you. That's kind of sums it up, don't you think, John?
It does. Another great show here on KMUD.
Yeah. It's time for us to say goodbye to our guest, Mary T. Crowley, who gave the website that you can find all of this information about, and then some, oceanvoyagesinstitute.org. And Mary, we want to thank you for being our guest for the last hour, and we want to have you back as updates and funding needs and other issues become available to you to pass on to our listeners.
That would be my pleasure. I certainly will keep you posted, and really appreciate an opportunity to be on the show. And I love getting to talk to Ryan on his ship. That's great that he's captaining the
That was
ship.
Great. And I think Austin was in the hopper getting queued up to call you as well. By the way, Austin has spent the last number of years working for Crowley Marine. And he's got special hazmat certifications. Equally proud of him as well. And Mary, that is why I extend to you just my heartfelt gratitude and appreciation and love for you and for all you do. Leading environmentalist, a leading mentor to a new generation of mariners and ocean lovers, be they surfers, be they beachgoers, be they beachcombers, be they kayakers. The heart, the living heart, is the kaisei. Is the